Pretty good start for Pulisic.
If he can play like this and just continue, if this is the base, he will fulfill what we all think he can fulfill in terms of his potential, being world class. That's what we always thought Christian Pulisic would be, considering when he broke into the national team at that young age, playing at Dortmund at that young age, that he could be world class. This shows me he could be on that path if he continues just to stay healthy. Because look how good he was, playing one touch, two touch. No matter if a team's in a low block, when you move that quick, his service with his left foot, you can tell he can go either way. And that's what makes him so difficult. And he has great touch when he plays quick. He's very tough to defend because his movement off the ball is phenomenal. When he gets caught on the ball too much, what we saw typically with the early days of the U.S. men's national team, that's when he takes a beating from defenders. That's when he gets put in bad positions. But when he is playing like this, short and sharp.
I was worried about him going to Italy because I know teams will play against AC Milan and will sit in a low block, right? 2 banks of 4, nowhere to go, no space between the lines, no space behind. And his game is like right on the counter. He's quick. He can go by guys. So my worry was that. And then in the first game, he answered all my questions, right? The first goal comes from him because he breaks down the low block with the weak-footed cross that's perfectly measured. And then the goal. He's got 4 defenders standing in front of him, nowhere to go, no space, tight little 1-2, bang, bang. So if he can do that in a low block, wait till they see him in open space. And he's still got more to give, believe it or not.
Do you see him playing as a 10, seeing what he could do now in that right wing spot?
Throughout the season, there might be some movement. Because where does Samu Chukwueze fit in all of this once he comes in? But judging from just what did he get, 75 minutes yesterday, judging from that handful of minutes that he got yesterday, he looks confident. I really like the combinations between him and Reinders, between him and Calabria.
No, him and Giroud
on the right-hand side. And then there was a further understanding between him and Giroud. There were a couple of moments where he was hitting switches across the field and Giroud was hitting them one time. There was a deeper understanding between the two. And obviously from our conversation that we had, what was that, 2-3 months ago before the transfer window even opened, and we asked Giroud here at Morning Footy about Christian Pulisic potentially moving to Milan, and he was like, ooh, I like her. He was really excited about that for his former Chelsea teammate. Pulisic has been brought here to be one of the main guys. He's not a role player anymore. It's the part of his career where he's going to be a protagonist, that he has to carry the responsibility of being one of the main Milan players, because it feels like that's what Pioli brought him for. It feels like that's what he's there to do.
So how much, it has to feel so good for a guy like Christian Pulisic to have the confidence of his manager. Pioli basically saying, like, no, like, this guy is going to be a very important piece for us. How major is that for a player like Pulisic, where, you know, we saw at Chelsea, he wasn't really appreciated. He wasn't really utilized. How big of a difference is that for a guy?
It's massive, and I think he has the backing of the ownership as well, and we got to interview them I think it was last year, a few months ago. And they all back him. They all want this project to go forward. He is a dual asset in that he's a massive marketing piece for a huge market, which is the United States. Like, how many people want to watch Pulisic in a Milan jersey? We all do. I know that for sure. All soccer fans do. And then what he can bring on the field. And again, the fact that he could break down low blocks, I didn't see that part of his game, like, ever, that polished part of his game. So if he can bring that, I mean, and the backing of the manager as well, Pioli, who's known to be a fairly calm guy, knows what he wants, knows what he likes. He keeps the players at ease. And a lot of the times what Pioli's doing is just getting out of the way of the players' getting out of the way of the players and letting them perform and letting them play to their talents. He's not really a guy that's screaming and yelling and wants it his way. He's sort of like out in the background and letting the players do what they want.
And I think, Chukwueze, when you brought it up, that's depth and competition.
Right.
So if you looked at this front three now, who's coming off? Leao is not moving, Giroud's not moving, and the way Pulisic played, he's not going anywhere. So, you know, Leao sometimes can go in and out with injuries as well. Pulisic, we've seen throughout his Chelsea career. So it's great when you have depth, and Pioli must be sitting there like, this so far so good, right? Now Yunus Musah, on the other hand, like I said, he was never just going to walk in and play. Right. He's got to work. He's got to grind to get that opportunity. And I do think once he gets going, he will be a mainstay in this midfield.
By the way, yesterday Yunus Musa didn't play because he was carrying over a suspension from Valencia. So finally, when he works his way into that midfield, it's going to add even further depth. So he's either going to fit in for like a Krunic, for example, in either a 6 role or Reinders or Loftus-Cheek. Milan has a lot to play with. And back to the 4-3-3 that Pioli, he kind of played around with a little bit last season. And it didn't work. He went back to the 4-2-3-1. We were talking, I don't know, was this last week? You weren't here. But we were talking about that the 4-3-3 didn't work for him last year, but this season he has options.
He switched around a lot last year. But for reference, also, Bologna, not a bad team. 543 passes, 54% possession. They think they had like 17 shots. So they didn't play like a pushover team. They played one of the top teams, top mid-level team.
Yeah, worth pointing out, too, Christian Pulisic becomes the first American to score a goal in 3 of the top 5 European leagues. So it's a pretty cool.